let's unpack this. We are looking at a brief but just incredibly dense ABC News report from today.
Right, July 30th.
Yeah, July 30, 2026. And it's regarding the 56-year-old rap mogul, Sean Diddy Combs. And, I mean, reading this report, it feels like looking at two completely incompatible realities just, like, crashing into each other.
It really does. It's a lot to process.
It is. Because, okay, imagine you're tracking a system where someone receives this highly coveted reward, right? Specifically, an earlier release date from a federal prison sentence.
Which is a big deal.
Exactly. But then, almost in the exact same breath, you find out they've just been involved in a physical altercation and they were sent to solitary confinement.
Right.
So you have this systemic reward overlapping with this extreme systemic punishment.
I mean, it's
wild.
a totally jarring juxtaposition. And, welcome to everyone joining us today.
Yes, welcome.
Our mission today for this deep dive is to really look past those immediate conflicting headlines. We want to understand the underlying architecture of the situation.
The mechanics of it all.
Exactly. We are going to unpack the rigid mechanics of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the cold, hard facts of his sentencing, and what a wall of complete, absolute silence from his own representatives actually tells us about high-stakes legal strategy.
Because, honestly, when you just read the bullet points on a screen, it doesn't make any logical sense.
No, not at all.
So we really need to look at the machinery behind the curtain here. Let's start with the baseline facts, like the actual math of the sentence.
Okay, let's do it.
So last October, Combs was sentenced to 50 months in prison following convictions on 2 prostitution-related offenses.
Right, 50 months.
That 50 months was the baseline. But now, according to federal inmate records, that release date has been shifted. He is currently scheduled to be released on January 24, 2028.
Which is a bump up.
Yeah, it's a bump up of exactly 1 month.
Right, a 1-month adjustment on a 50-month timeline. And the ABC News source makes a point to note that absolutely no reason was given by the authorities for this new anticipated release date.
Nothing at all.
Nothing. It just magically appeared in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, or the BOP database.
And here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because a 1-month reduction on a 50-month sentence isn't exactly a massive overhaul.
Not at all.
When you think of a prisoner getting time off their sentence, you usually think of these sweeping reductions for uncovering a legal loophole or shaving off years for exemplary behavior.
Right, like the movie versions of prison.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But 1 month. I mean, it feels more like a corporate cost of living adjustment than a major merit bonus.
That's a great way to put it, actually.
And the source explicitly mentions that release dates are, quote, subject to shift again due to behavior in prison and other factors.
Right, other factors is key there.
But looking at the solitary confinement reality that we know is coming next in this timeline, which we'll get to, I have a really hard time believing that some kind of angelic good behavior is the driving force here.
Well, what's fascinating here is how the federal bureaucratic machine actually calculates time.
Okay, walk me through that.
The concept of behavior is only one small variable in a very complex, continuously shifting equation. When you see a shifting release date for a federal inmate, it is incredibly normal.
Even if it looks entirely random from the outside.
Exactly. You mentioned a cost of living adjustment, and that's actually a highly accurate way to think about it. The BOP is essentially a massive administrative monolith.
Right.
You don't have, a warden sitting at a mahogany desk with a giant red stamp handing out 1-month rewards based on a single good deed.
Right. It's not like a teacher giving out a gold star. So what are they doing? How does an algorithm just magically decide to move a date up by 30 days without a stated reason?
It comes down to those other factors the source mentioned.
Okay.
Federal prison sentences involve continuous rolling calculations. This includes time served, administrative credits, programmatic participation, and statutory adjustment.
Hold on, let's define those, because that sounds like total government alphabet soup.
It really is.
What exactly is a statutory adjustment versus programmatic participation? How do those actually shave days off a sentence in the real world?
Great question. Let's break it down. So a statutory adjustment is time off that is legally mandated by Congress.
Okay.
For example, under federal law, inmates can earn a certain number of days per year of good conduct time. It's a formula.
So they just get it automatically?
Pretty much. The system assumes you will earn it and credits it to your projected release date right at the start.
Oh, I see.
Programmatic participation, on the other hand, is active. Let's say an inmate takes an anger management course or, participates in a drug treatment program.
Or like a vocational training thing.
Exactly. Completing those specific programs triggers administrative credits.
Okay, so you finish a class, you get a certificate, and the computer just shaves off a week.
Essentially, yes. The BOP operates these massive centralized databases.
Right.
So when the BOP updates their inmate records, it's often just the result of an automated scheduled audit of an inmate's file.
Wow, okay.
It's an administrative formula running in the background at a central office. It's completely detached from the local prison where the inmate actually sleeps.
So when you and I or the press see the date bump up to January 24, 2028, we naturally assume a conscious, intentional reward has just been granted.
Right, because that's human nature to connect those dots.
But in reality, it's often just the bureaucratic spreadsheet updating itself based on standard rolling operational guidelines.
Precisely. It's less about a human being saying, good job, here's a month off, and much more about a computer system in a totally different state, just reconciling days served.
Reconciling mandatory credits and administrative math based on a huge backlog of data.
Yes. The administrative calculation wing of the BOP operates on its own track. It is completely detached from narrative, public perception, or even the immediate daily reality of the inmate.
But I mean, if this is an algorithm, it relies on inputs, right?
Of course.
It needs data,
Right.
which means we need to look at the data from this month because it completely shatters the illusion of a smooth, compliant prison term.
It really does.
Because earlier this very same month, July 2026, Combs was involved in a physical altercation at the federal prison where he's serving his sentence.
Yes. And according to a source familiar with the incident that was cited in the ABC News report, the event was instigated by a remark made by another inmate to Combs.
Right, a remark that leads to a fight, which then leads to an incredibly severe consequence.
Extremely severe.
Because after this altercation, Combs was sent to solitary confinement.
Yes, he was.
So it's like looking at a black box.
Hmm.
We see the inputs, a provocative remark,
Mhm.
a physical altercation, and the extreme output of solitary confinement.
Right.
But the actual mechanics of the discipline, like who threw a punch, who broke it up, the internal investigation is totally hidden from us.
It is entirely hidden. And that opacity is not an accident. It is a matter of strict federal policy.
Yeah.
On July 24th, the ABC News report noted that a BOP spokesperson categorically refused to comment on any of it.
Shocking.
Right. They wouldn't touch questions about the conditions of confinement. They wouldn't discuss the disciplinary matters at all.
Wow.
And they definitely wouldn't give out any information regarding individual inmates.
And their stated reasons are always the same, right? Privacy, safety, and security concerns.
Always.
Which, honestly, on a functional level, I get you don't want to broadcast the vulnerabilities, the guard rotations, or the specific disciplinary locations of inmates, especially high-profile ones, to the general public.
No, it would be a total security nightmare.
Exactly. But it creates this massive information vacuum.
Yeah.
Which brings me back to the algorithm.
Okay, let's hear it.
If he was just sent to solitary this month for a prison fight, how is the system simultaneously reporting a moved-up release date?
Right, the timeline feels broken.
It does. Because if I get into a fight at work today, my HR file reflects that today. Are these two separate bureaucratic hands just completely failing to communicate with each other?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, your question hits on the exact nature of how massive institutions function.
Okay.
You asked if the left hand is talking to the right hand. The answer is yes, but they are communicating across a massive temporal delay.
Interesting.
Think of the federal prison system as having two entirely different nervous systems.
Okay, two nervous systems. Walk me through that.
So first you have the local facility level administration, the guards on the floor, the local warden, the immediate physical environment.
The people actually in the building.
Yes. When a fight breaks out, that local nervous system responds in real time to neutralize the threat and restore order. Hence, the immediate solitary confinement.
Right. Stop the violence, separate the parties.
Exactly. That is a physical, instantaneous reaction to maintain safety.
Okay, I'm with you. What's the second nervous system?
The second nervous system is the administrative hub we talked about earlier, the one constantly churning through the math of a 50-month sentence.
The algorithm.
Yes. The local facility handling the physical discipline does not immediately hack into the central database and change the release date.
Right.
There is a very rigid process. The guards have to write an incident report. That report has to be investigated.
Which takes time.
Then there is a formal adjudication process, often involving what they call a disciplinary hearing officer, or DHO.
Like an internal prison court.
Very much like that. The inmate has a right to a hearing. They can present evidence. They can appeal the officer's decision.
Okay.
This bureaucratic process takes weeks, sometimes even months.
Wow, okay.
Only after all the appeals are exhausted and the infraction is permanently etched into the record does that information finally get transmitted back to the central time calculation database.
To potentially strip away that good conduct time or push back the release date.
Exactly.
That is wild. It's basically like receiving a tax refund in the mail on the exact same day you get pulled over for a massive speeding ticket.
Yes.
The two events have literally nothing to do with each other. They are processed by entirely different departments operating on different timelines.
Right.
But when they hit your reality on the exact same day, it feels like a total paradox.
That's a brilliant analogy. The system updating Combs' release date to January 24th, 2028 likely reflects an automated recalculation that was initiated by data from months ago.
It just hasn't caught up to the reality of an altercation that happened just earlier this month.
Exactly. And because the BOP is legally mandated to maintain that wall of privacy we talked about, they will never step out and explain that timing discrepancy to the press.
They're not going to tweet about it.
Right. They won't issue a press release saying, hey, just so you know, this early release date is from a prior audit, and we are still processing the paperwork to penalize him for the recent solitary confinement.
Right. They just stay utterly silent and let the contradictory public records speak for themselves.
Which causes all this public confusion.
Okay, so the government moves slow and stays quiet. I can accept that. That's government.
Right.
But PR firms move in minutes. And what I can't wrap my head around is the other glaring silence in this story.
Ah, yes.
We don't expect total silence from a high-profile figure's own camp, especially when there is arguably good news to share.
And that is a fascinating pivot, because we are moving from the legally mandated bureaucratic silence of the prison system to the deliberate, highly strategic silence of Combs' own representatives.
Right, let's look at what the sources actually say.
Yeah.
A representative for Combs was asked about this new, moved-up release date on Thursday. They declined to comment.
Okay.
They were asked about the alleged prison fight and the solitary confinement. They declined to comment on that, too. Total blackout.
Total blackout.
So what does this all mean? Usually, if your client gets an earlier release date, even if it's just a month, standard PR logic says you spin that.
You'd think so, yeah.
You put out a statement saying, this is evidence of your client's incredible growth, their positive trajectory, their model behavior.
Yeah.
Why would his team stay completely mute on a seemingly positive development?
Well, to understand that silence, you have to look at the one remaining piece of critical context in the source material.
Which is?
Combs is currently appealing his conviction and his 50-month sentence.
Okay, but how does an appeal stop a PR person from sending out a positive tweet? I mean, they're separate things, right?
Not at this level, because the calculus for his team completely changes when an appeal is active. This is no longer about public relations. This is about legal survival. In standard celebrity PR, you want to win the news cycle. You want to control the narrative.
Of course.
But in high-stakes legal crisis management, every single public statement your team makes is a potential liability that can be introduced in a courtroom.
Wait, let me think through this.
Yeah.
If his representatives come out and celebrate the 1-month release date bump, like if they release a statement saying, we are pleased the system is recognizing Mr. Combs' progress,
Yeah.
aren't they basically admitting that the other 49 months are legitimate?
Yes.
Is this just a massive legal trap?
You hit the nail on the head. That is exactly the trap. If you celebrate a minor victory within the confines of the sentence, you are implicitly validating the system and the sentence itself. You are engaging with the reality of the 50 months. But their entire legal argument on appeal is that the 50-month sentence shouldn't exist in the first place.
Because he's fighting the core convictions,
Yeah.
the prostitution-related offenses.
Exactly.
If you say he's doing great at serving his time, the appellate judges might look at that and say, well, it sounds like he accepts the punishment.
Right. You dilute your core message. The overarching singular legal goal is overturning the conviction entirely.
So the PR team cannot risk commenting on a minor administrative victory because it just distracts from the appeal.
Right. It's just not worth it.
Okay, I see why they can't celebrate the early release. That makes sense. But what about the fight?
Okay, let's look at that.
The source literally states the event was instigated by a remark made by another inmate. Why couldn't his PR team issue a defensive statement?
Like what?
Just something simple like, Mr. Combs was harassed by another inmate, he simply defended himself, and we are appalled that he was sent to solitary confinement for being a victim. Wouldn't that drum up public sympathy?
It might drum up public sympathy, sure, but it would be a legal disaster.
Really?
Let's play out what happens if they release that defensive statement. First, they are publicly confirming that he was, in fact, involved in a physical altercation.
Oh, which is bad character evidence for the appellate judges.
Exactly. While you are begging an appellate court to view your client favorably and overturn a conviction, you do not want to go on the record confirming he is getting into physical brawls, regardless of who started it.
Yeah, that's not a great look.
But the second risk is even more dangerous.
What's that?
If his team publicly attacks the BOP saying they are appalled he was sent to solitary knife, they're creating a highly adversarial relationship with the very institution that controls every single aspect of his daily life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the BOP controls his food, his phone calls, his visitation.
Everything.
And ultimately, they control the paperwork for that disciplinary hearing officer process we just talked about.
Precisely. You do not antagonize the entity that holds total physical and bureaucratic power over your client. Furthermore, any statement his team makes about the fight could open the door for prosecutors to subpoena internal prison records or demand discovery related to the altercation during the appeals process.
Right, they could argue it speaks to his state of mind or character.
Exactly.
It's a total catch-22.
It really is.
If they speak to defend him, they risk angering the prison and providing ammunition to the prosecutors. But if they speak to celebrate him, they undermine their own appeal.
It is the definition of a highly disciplined, legally mandated strategy.
Wow.
And, for you listening to this, watching this unfold from the outside, it is such a crucial reminder about how to consume media.
Definitely.
We are all so conditioned to expect instant statements, tweets, and aggressive press releases the moment a scandal or a news item breaks.
Right, we want the spin immediately.
But when high-profile figures go entirely silent in the midst of breaking news, it is rarely because they have nothing to say. It is almost always because their legal counsel has calculated that the stakes of speaking are simply too high.
So silence, in this context, is not an absence of strategy.
No, silence is an active, aggressive, defensive maneuver.
It's fascinating because it means they've essentially built their own wall of silence right next to the government's wall of silence.
That's a great way to visualize it.
The Bureau of Prisons won't talk because of their strict bureaucratic privacy policies, and the Combs camp won't talk because of the precarious nature of an active appeal.
Right.
And right in the middle of these two silent, unmoving monoliths is a 56-year-old mogul sitting in a solitary confinement cell, while an automated computer system hundreds of miles away quietly updates his release date to January 2028.
Yeah.
It is a surreal picture of how the justice system actually operates when you strip away the PR spin.
It really forces you to reevaluate how we consume these headlines. We always want a clean narrative.
Oh, okay.
We want a straightforward story of crime, punishment, reward, and consequence that makes logical sense from day to day. But the reality is almost always a collision of disjointed systems operating on entirely different timelines.
So to summarize the core contradictions we've uncovered in these sources today,
Let's hear it.
we have a high-profile inmate actively fighting to completely overturn a 50-month sentence. On a parallel track, a massive, slow-moving federal algorithm has quietly bumped his release date up by 1 month without any explanation based on rolling data.
Right.
Simultaneously, on yet another track, the daily physical reality of prison life has resulted in an altercation sparked by a single remark, ending in the immediate severe punishment of solitary confinement.
Yeah, all happening at once.
And wrapping all of these disjointed facts together is a thick blanket of total silence from both the government and his own legal team. It is an incredibly frustrating but deeply illuminating look at the gears of the system.
This raises an important question, though, and it's something I think is vital to consider as we wrap up.
Okay, what is it?
We've spent this time dissecting the timeline and the treatment of someone with immense resources, global name recognition, and top-tier legal representation. And even with all of that spotlight, all of that scrutiny, his status in the justice system remains incredibly opaque to the public.
It really does.
Fights and early releases overlap, the mechanics of discipline are completely hidden, and the reasons behind administrative decisions are shielded by strict policy.
Yeah.
If the system is this opaque, this confusing, and this walled off for a highly scrutinized, high-profile mogul,
I see where you're going with this.
how much more invisible is the daily reality and the disciplinary process for the thousands of average inmates who don't have that name recognition?
Man, that is a heavy but incredibly necessary thought to sit with. When absolute opacity is the standard operating procedure, who is actually watching the inputs and outputs?
Exactly.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As always, keep looking past the surface, keep asking why the narrative is shaped the way it is, and keep questioning the silence behind the headlines. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.